Long ago, in a land of rolling hills and flowing rivers, there was a kingdom like no other. It was a place of music, laughter, and golden fields stretching as far as the eye could see. And in the heart of this kingdom stood a great palace, home to King Obed. Obed was rich beyond measure. His warriors were fierce, his land was vast, and his people were loyal. But none of his treasures were as valuable as the golden tree. This tree was unlike any other. Its branches shimmered, its leaves sparkled, and every night, just as the moon reached its highest point, one single golden fruit would appear. This fruit was no ordinary fruit. It had the power to heal any sickness. And now, the kingdom needed it more than ever. A terrible sickness had spread through the land. People were growing weaker by the day. Even the king's strongest warriors had fallen ill. And to make matters worse, a mighty army was marching toward the kingdom. Spies had carried news of the sickness to the enemy king. He knew the kingdom was vulnerable. He knew the warriors were weak. He was coming to take the land for himself. King Obed needed the golden fruit. Not just one. He needed many. 10, 20, as many as possible. But every night, just before the fruit could be picked, it disappeared. Vanished. The guards swore they never slept. The hounds picked up no scent. The traps remained empty. The king was furious. "Who dares steal from my tree?" he roared. But no one had the answer. That night, he called his 3 sons, Thunder, Jide, and Ode, and made a bold promise. "Whoever finds the thief and stops this nonsense shall inherit my throne." Thunder, the eldest, stood tall. He was strong, fearless, and believed nothing could escape his sharp spear. Jide, the middle son, smirked. He was clever and always trusted his tricks over brute strength. Ode, the youngest, said nothing. He was neither the strongest nor the smartest, but he listened more than he spoke, and that often made all the difference. That night, Thunder took his spear and hid in the shadows of the great tree. Hours passed. The night was silent. The wind was still. Then, just as the moon reached its highest point, he saw a glow in the darkness. A magnificent golden bird swooped down from the sky, its wings shining like the morning sun. Thunder held his breath and gripped his spear. But before he could move, the bird plucked the fruit from the tree, its feathers flashing like fire, and in an instant, it was gone. The next morning, he told his father what he saw. King Obed slammed his fist on the table. "And yet, you stand before me empty-handed." Thunder lowered his head. Jide laughed. "Leave it to me, father. The bird may be faster than a spear, but not smarter than me." That night, Jide hid behind the tree, a wide net stretched high above. He watched the sky, his fingers gripping the rope. Midnight came. The golden glow returned. The bird swooped down. Jide yanked the rope. The net fell, fast, strong, unbreakable. But the moment it touched the bird, it burst into flames. The fire roared, the net turned to smoke, and in a blink, the golden bird was gone. The next morning, Jide stood before his father, silent. He had no tricks left. Now, it was Ed's turn. Unlike his brothers, he did not carry weapons or traps. Instead, he took a small stool and a lantern and sat beneath the tree. He did not hide. He did not wait in anger. He simply sat, watching the stars. And at midnight, the golden glow returned. The bird landed, its wings folding neatly, its sharp eyes staring into Ed's. But Ode did not move. He spoke softly. "Why do you steal my father's fruit?" The bird tilted its head. Then, in a voice smooth as the river, it replied, "Because he once stole from me." Ode frowned. "That can't be true." "It is." The bird's feathers flickered. "Years ago, your father found my nest. I had laid 3 golden eggs, but before they could hatch, he took them. He locked them away, calling them treasures. I take only what was taken from me. Ade's heart pounded. He had never heard this story before. If my father wronged you, then let's make it right, he said. The bird studied him. Then, it nodded once. Return the eggs, and I will take no more. The next morning, Ade told his father everything. At first, King Obed denied it. But when he looked into his son's eyes, the truth weighed heavy on him. He had indeed taken the eggs. They still lay untouched in his vault. With a heavy heart, the king returned them. That night, the golden bird came one last time, not to steal, but to thank Ode. You have given me back my family, it said. And for that, I shall give you something greater. She took the eggs and flew away. The kingdom braced itself for war. But then, one night, the bird returned. And she was not alone. 3 golden birds, newly hatched, flew beside her. She did not take the fruit. She did not speak. She simply spread her wings. And the next morning, when King Obed woke, he found something astonishing. The golden tree, which had only ever borne 1 fruit per night, was now covered in hundreds. Its branches drooped under the weight of golden fruit, more than the kingdom could ever need. The warriors ate. The sick were healed. The kingdom was saved. And as for the enemy, the attacking army had spies. Long before they reached the gates, they had sent messengers back to their king. They told him everything. The outbreak, the sickness, the weakened soldiers. The enemy king smiled when he heard the news. By the time we arrive, he said, they will be too weak to fight. The kingdom will be ours. But when his army finally reached the walls, they found strong warriors waiting. Men who had once been too sick to stand now held their swords firmly in hand. The golden fruit had healed them. The tables had turned. The invading army knew they had no chance. They retreated before the first arrow was loosed. The kingdom was safe. Not because of war. Not because of force. But because of justice and kindness. Ade's name became legend, and his story was passed down for generations. And that, my friends, is the tale of the golden tree and the golden bird. Thank you for listening to another thrilling African folktale. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We bring you the best stories from the heart of Africa. See you in the next one.